So when we talk about conflict between two individuals or parties or groups, so assuming, this is really important, assuming that there's no victims as defined here, so assuming that nobody's had their rights or freedoms taken away, assuming these conditions are not met, you're always going to have three things that are true. These are always going to be the case. So between two people, person A and person B, both parties contribute to the conflict. Both parties ultimately contribute to the conflict as it began and the conclusion of the conflict. Okay? So this is a kind of a difficult point to absorb because I'm sure you've gotten in a conflict or a fight with somebody or an issue with somebody, and your thought was it's like this is like 100% your fault. Like you are the reason why we're here. Every single one of us has probably gotten to that point, right? But you could argue that the other person's probably thinking the exact same thing about you. No, this is your fault. You're the reason why we're here. And it creates a back and forth. You could argue in a conflict that maybe person B is 80% responsible and person A is 20% responsible. You could argue that it's 50-50. You could argue it's 60-40. You could argue that it's 99% this person's fault and 1% this person's fault. It doesn't matter. Both parties are still responsible. They both hold some. And instead of arguing about who is most responsible, the tricky thing or the hard thing to do is to say, you know what, I own some responsibility here. Part of this is on me. And focusing on that rather than the other person. And because of that, there's no absolute right or wrong. Again, when it comes to disagreements, especially the situation we discussed earlier, they're not black and white. There's a lot of complexity, there's a lot going on, and there's more than one person at play here. So you have to take that into consideration. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to come to a resolution or you're trying to find a way to resolve the conflict, you need both sides to give a little. You got to have both go. It can't just be one person go. If you are the person that believes you were harmed by something, you can't just expect the other party to come all your way. You can't do that. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. Or wait for them to move before you move. You have to, there always is going to be some piece that you possess responsibility for. Something you said or did or failed to say or failed to do that contributed to the conflict. And it's finding out what that is that can be tricky. So these are sort of three more, I guess, rules or a framework that we're going to use going forward, because we're going to build on some of this later on in today's class and the course. Okay, so I have another example. This is going to be a little different than what we saw before. We have a student and we have a professor. I'm hoping I can get two volunteers to one person be the student and one person be the professor. Anybody want to volunteer? Yeah, you do. Who do you? Come on. Somebody wants to be the student. You'll be the student? Awesome. Thank you, Lily. Okay. And I need somebody to be the professor. Who wants to be the professor here? Can't be me. You'll do it? Okay, awesome. Okay, so thank you very much. So you're gonna read through this scenario. I would encourage you to get as animated or as spirited as you would like. You have free reign to say this however you want, as long as you follow the script. So honestly, free reins. Let's have a look at it. When you're ready, take it away.
That test you gave us was totally unfair. Everything that was on that test came directly from the lecture slides. I also told you that any additional information that was discussed in class would be fair game for the test.
That's not fair. You said you can't expect us to write down everything you say.
Clearly you need to pay more attention in class. You're probably spending way too much time on that cell phone.
That's completely not true. I attend all your classes and took amazing notes. I do that for all my classes and always score well.
Well, it sounds like you just didn't study hard enough then. Next time, ask more questions and do a little bit more practical. Okay?
You're so wrong. I'm going to the dean about this. Mark my word.
Thank you very much. Well done. I always have fun with scenarios. Now, lucky for me, this hasn't happened to me, thank goodness. However, I mean, something similar probably has at some point. So let's take a look at this. Hey, nice job, everyone. Okay. So again, whenever we're dealing with a question about trying to figure out who's the victim, we go to here. Are any of these met? Nope. Nobody's rights or freedoms were taken away. Nobody committed a crime. This is irrelevant. And this is not met. Absolutely. And everybody got that correct. Good. So yeah, there's no victims in this scenario. So that's a good start. Let's continue. Okay, so different question than we've had before. All of our questions today have been about who's the victim. Now we've shifted a little bit. Now we're talking about who's responsible, because again, this class is about self-responsibility. And the answer is both are. Why is it both? Why is it not just the student? Well, to answer that, we have to go back here. So, assuming there are no victims, which again, in this scenario, there's no victims. Nobody's a victim. There are three things that are going to be true. And at the end of the day, both parties are going to contribute to it, even if one is possibly more responsible. So there's always going to be shared responsibility. Both sides are going to be responsible. Always. Assuming that there are no victims. Now, one thing I want to point out is, oh, Jordan, you lost your lead. One thing I want to point out is that you could argue that you think the student is more responsible. You could say, you know what, that's on the student for not doing their not doing their due diligence. You could totally argue that. You could also, some of you might also argue, nah, you know what, I think the prof is more responsible. They need to be more clear in their syllabus as to what they expect. We could have a debate. We could crack open some beers and pizza and go back and forth as to who's more responsible all class. We could do that. But it doesn't matter because they're both responsible. They both own part of this. Because, again, there's no victims. So that's for leading up to this scenario, but what about the outcome? So it looks like we have a sort of similar type scenario here. So for the outcome, so based on what happened, obviously student clearly still probably more upset than they were when they started, perhaps. Maybe one might argue that it's up to the student to approach the professor in a bit more of a calm or more reasonable tone rather than coming in guns a-blazing and accusing the professor of being unfair. Sure, you could definitely argue that. I could also argue that I thought this prof was extremely dismissive. I thought the prof, basically as soon as the student came in hot, the prof put up a wall and put up some sandbags and some bunkers and got ready to hunker down and defend themselves. And didn't really address any of the students' concerns. Either way, they're both responsible. You could argue the student's more responsible. I could argue the professor's more responsible. But it doesn't matter because they both are. They both are responsible for the outcome, which clearly was not a good outcome for either the student or the prof because the student leaves unsatisfied and unheard, and then the prof's probably going to get a write-up of some kind, which they probably don't want. Okay, so that leads us to the next major point we want to talk about, which is, again, the power of reflecting, being accountable, and then ultimately responsibility. You all have started doing some self-reflections in this class. You've done 2. Well, most of you have done 2 already. You did 1 for chapter 1. You did 1 last week for meaning and purpose. So I'm hoping that by doing these exercises, you're starting to think of things that maybe you didn't consider or things that might have been hidden because, it's easy to get focused on, what are other people doing or what's not going right in my life. And there's so many things that are out of your control. But again, to move forward, to grow, and to pursue wellness as defined in this class, any form of victim mentality or abdication of responsibility needs to be rejected and taken out. It's not going to help. And in the vast majority of cases, not all, but in the vast majority of cases, this can be reduced and potentially taken off simply by adopting more self-responsibility. More self-responsibility for the voluntary and deliberate choices that you decide to make. So as defined in this class, self-responsibility, it's about being responsible, answerable, or accountable for something or some things, more than one thing, that are within one's power, control, or management. So I want to be very, very clear, we're talking about things that are within one's power, control, or management. Okay, that's a pretty important piece. Why is that an important piece? Well, we'll talk about that in just a few slides. So here are some of the key elements of self-responsibility, and I think let's kind of talk about each one of them. So this first one, all choices are personal. What do you think that means? What do you mean all choices are personal? What does that mean?
All choices that you make are for you. Like, you make them for yourself.
Bingo. Exactly. So when we say personal, it means you made the choice. You chose. You may have been influenced by somebody. You may have been influenced by a group. You may have heard something or saw something. Regardless of what happened, that is true. You still made the choice. You still did it. Doesn't matter who influenced you or what influenced you. The choice you made is the choice you made. Period. End of story. So it starts there. Thoughts and actions are intentional. So that sort of ties to our definition of wellness from earlier. So what do we mean by thoughts and actions are intentional? It's a bit of a trickier one. I guess we can start, what's a thought? Define a thought. You laugh, but it's harder to do than you think. Define it. What's a thought? No takers? Everybody's just laughing at me, thinking, why would you ask such a stupid question? Yeah, so a thought is essentially, it's something that passes through your mind based on observable information around you. So events happen around you, which causes you to think something. And then that thought typically results in a feeling. You feel a certain way, and then that feeling typically leads to an action, causes you to do something. Either way, the thought and the preceding action, and the following action are intentional. It means the action that took place, you meant to do it. It meant to do it. Bit of a trickier one to grasp fully. We're going to dive more into this in chapter 6. All actions have consequences. Negative consequences, and positive consequences, and neutral consequences. They all have consequences. Again, when it comes to stuff like this, a lot of the time we talk about the negative consequences. Consequence is sort of a negative or word that has a lot of negative vibe around it, but it's also positive and also neutral. But all actions are going to have that. Most importantly, we want to ensure that responsibility is accepted for all consequences, not just the positive ones, or not just the neutral ones, but also the negative ones. And the last piece, unforeseen consequences still matter. What do you think we might be getting at with that last piece? Unforeseen consequences still matter. Yeah.
Even if something's out of your control, you must still answer for it.
Yeah, exactly. So you make a choice, you do something, or you fail to do something, and it leads to a consequence that you didn't think was coming. It just happened out of the blue. It caught you completely off guard. You still have to take responsibility for that consequence, even if you didn't think it was going to happen, or it felt like it came out of left field. And that's summed up nicely by this blob here. We may not be aware of all the consequences of our actions. A lot of the times we do things and they have an impact or they have an effect, and we either miss it completely or we just don't see it. So those are things we need to be aware of, and that's where self-reflection comes in, where you can think about maybe things that have happened in your life that maybe you didn't realize till years later. And then you're thinking, oh man, if I had known that, I would have done things completely differently. Either way, really, really important stuff.